Recently, there's been some news about Marvel's Eternals getting pulled from countries in the Middle East. There was a time when I lived in the Middle East for like almost 18 years of my life. You could almost say that I'm very familiar with Middle Eastern culture. I am essentially a Middle Eastern culture connoisseur, and I feel like I can offer the internet a unique perspective on the whole Arab nations hate gay people controversy. Now, I'm not gonna take the these Arab countries are ignorant and pathetic approach, and I'm not gonna talk about how moving to Canada has completely changed my perspective, made me more accepting of others, and has given me the courage to experiment with my sexuality. On a side note, if I did use my YouTube channel to come out of the closet, I don't think anyone that knows me personally would even be surprised.
Alright, questions for guys, part 1. Do you like tall girls or short girls?
Men.
I'm gonna talk about how people that identify as gay, lesbian, or anything that isn't straight is generally perceived in the Middle East, what it's like going to a Middle Eastern theater, and why the Eternals controversy is way dumber than you think.
Hey, I know! I'll use my trusty frying pan as a drying pan!
Nowadays, it's pretty clear where people in the West stand. On the whole, we accept you for who you are regardless of your sexual orientation thing. Especially in pretty much any major city like Vancouver, LA, New York City, Toronto. Having said that, despite what the internet would have you believe, there are a lot of states like Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, Wyoming, and Louisiana where it's still a problem to be openly gay. At least generally speaking, and I am going to be generalizing a lot in this video. What I want to do is give you guys some context on why it actually makes sense for the Eternals movie to get banned in some countries in the Middle East, and also why it's really dumb that it got banned in the Middle East, because it actually doesn't make any sense.
What?
Now, I'm not gonna say every Arab country is the exact same, but generally speaking, countries in the Arab world tend to be more conservative when compared to the West. When I say conservative, I don't mean that if you visit a country like Qatar, you'll be surrounded by sand dunes, village people, and men that have a lot of respect for women. That's called Afghanistan, and that place really is a shithole.
We used to beat people up for saying things like that!
And although the Arab world tends to be pretty conservative in some countries, people's mentalities has definitely changed. People have become much more accepting of others, regardless of their race and beliefs. But the Middle East still has, and probably always will have, a problem with seeing two men or two women holding hands publicly is, for the most part at least, pretty much non-existent in that part of the world. And when it is there, it gets a lot of attention. For example, when I was a teenager, I remember being in the mall and I saw these two guys in their 20s. They were both kind of dressed a bit flamboyantly, and they were holding hands walking around at the mall, pretty much just minding their own business. But behind them was this group of absolute degenerates. These guys had this look in their eyes like when Smeagol looks at the ring.
Precious!
Except instead of looking at the one ring to rule them all, they were just looking at two guys holding hands in the mall. These people were following the two guys around the mall and just throwing insulting comments at them. And although the Middle East is becoming more progressive in some form, it's going to take a lot of time until seeing gay men and women being together publicly becomes normalized. I know it will eventually happen, but by that time, I will probably be dead and my mind will be permanently uploaded to what is the equivalent of hell on earth: Twitter.
I'm melting! Melting! Oh, what a world! What a world!
Now that you have some context on the Middle East's general perception of the gay community, you also need to understand the standard theater experience in a Middle Eastern country.
Can we talk about the sex scene? It's one of the best sex scenes I've seen in forever.
Oh.
That sex scene. Who put that together? Yo, seriously.
Whenever there's any sexual scene, regardless of whether it was a PG-13 movie or an R-rated movie, sexual scenes like kissing and sex scenes would usually get cut from movies in Middle Eastern theaters. In general though, it's pretty inconsistent with what gets cut out. Like for example, some makeout scenes would stay, and others would get cut out. Some nude scenes would stay, as long as the characters were partially nude, but some of them would get cut even if the characters were only partially nude. There was never really any consistency on what gets kept and what doesn't. Now, what do I mean by get cut out? It literally means that you're watching a movie and it feels like a scene was badly edited out of a movie. It never feels smooth. The transition is always very abrupt. Now, for a very long time, I always thought there was like a team of scholars that would watch a movie and their job was to make sure the movie upheld certain, I don't know, religious values or something before they start cutting stuff out of a movie, right? But I later found out that, at least where I'm from, the person making decisions on what gets cut and what doesn't was just one old dude.
Prime Minister, I'm not going to be challenged. You may be the Prime Minister of this country, but in this house, I'm in charge.
That's it. It's just some old guy. He gets to decide the type of movie experience millions of people would have. It wasn't some super team of highly intelligent people that weighed in on what's appropriate and what isn't. Where are we at in the world? What are some things that have become more socially acceptable to see? Or any of that. It's just one old dude that decides for everyone else. I don't know if things have changed now, but where I'm from, that's how it was, and I doubt that things have changed at all now. And just to finalize my point, if you remember a pretty good movie called Eastern Promises with Viggo Mortensen, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, there was a pretty awesome fight scene that took place in a sauna room where Viggo Mortensen was fighting completely naked. So in my theater, that whole fight, that entire fight got cut. There was nothing sexual about it. They weren't banging each other even though it was three dudes fighting. No one was fondling or even gargling with anyone's balls. If I remember correctly, there was absolutely no ball fondling throughout the entire movie, which for me was a huge missed opportunity.
Disappointed!
The scene just got cut because the main character was naked. Now, if you haven't ever experienced paying to watch a movie and noticing that your theater edited out some scenes, this might sound like a terrible movie experience. And you're right, it is a terrible movie experience. But back then, your only options were to either wait for the movie to come out on DVD 6 months later after all the hype has died and all the spoilers are out, and watch it on your 22-inch CRT screen with those terrible tin can speakers. Or you can see an edited version of it in a giant theater. This brings me to my final point of this thing and why the controversy is way dumber than you think. The focus of the controversy in the headlines is basically that cutting out the kissing scene between two men is homophobic, anti-progressive. The dumb part of all of this is that movie theaters in the Middle East can just edit those scenes out themselves, just like they've done for decades. As far as I know, there is no rule that says they aren't allowed to do that. The UAE, Egypt, Lebanon, Iraq, Jordan, Ethiopia, Palestine, Syria, and Turkey, all according to the source, showed an edited version of the movie Eternals without the kissing scene between the two dudes. And I quote from this article, but it wasn't just the gay kiss that was edited out. It was any and all scenes of physical intimacy and kissing between characters, which is standard in those countries. Just like they've done for a long time, any movie theater has the power to edit whatever scene they want out of a movie. This never should have been controversial. Now, I know some people might be watching and thinking the point is they shouldn't be editing these scenes out, especially since it's part of the story. I'm not disagreeing with you here. But just like I said about the movie Eastern Promises, where they took out an entire fight scene that was important to the plot, movies in the Middle East edit out scenes with important plot points all the time. It's not a new thing. The only reason this even became a story is because it's a Marvel movie. It's not because it was two guys kissing. Movies in the Middle East cut out scenes with married straight couples kissing all the fucking time. This only became controversial and made headlines because it's a Marvel movie. By the way, I really liked Eternals. It wasn't perfect, but the visuals and the fight scenes was fucking awesome. You should go watch it if you haven't. And let me know what you guys think of this whole controversy in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the thumbs up if you liked it. Hit the thumbs down if you didn't. Hit the subscribe button. Hit all those buttons. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.